Hello, and thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. Each weekend, we walk you through the headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
It was this moment when Teresa Borenpol was dragged out of a Republican town hall in Coeur d'Alene after shouting at speakers. Coeur d'Alene police are now recommending charges like battery, false imprisonment, and kidnapping against security firm Lear Asset Management, as well as charging another private citizen separately with battery and possessing weapons or firearms on school property.
It happened so quickly, I don't even know where this man came from. All of a sudden, he was just in in my personal space.
Megan Kuntz, who was attending the town hall with a group of friends, including Borenpol, was also allegedly attacked that day by someone who was attending the town hall.
And so I was just watching this happening, and I was thinking, oh my God, somebody needs to go be with Teresa. I didn't know what that meant in my mind at the time.
When the situation erupted, Kuntz tried to be there for her friend Borenpol, but was ultimately blocked by another attendee.
And at that point, I was just like, what is this? I've never been assaulted. I've never witnessed violence before like that. So it was very just shocking.
Kuntz says while it has been a very traumatic time for her friend group, she is grateful that the Coeur d'Alene police are taking this seriously. The attorney representing Borenpol sent KREM 2 a statement on the recommended charges, saying in part, Teresa is pleased that the criminal justice process is playing out as intended and awaits the prosecutorial decision. KREM 2 also reached out to Lear Asset Management for comment on the recommended charges. Its CEO, Paul Trowett, says in part, we are building a defense for the false allegations against the company. We feel favorable about this defense and are in the appeals process for the revocation of our license at this time. While there have been plenty of comments in support of Borenpol being taken out of the town hall, Kuntz says the most surprising part of the whole situation was the outpouring of support for Teresa on both sides.
There's plenty of questions a person asks if they're in the market to buy a new car. But the biggest one asked now at Wendell Motors in Spokane is also coming from the sellers.
And what's going to happen if these cars are going up 25% or even 10% in price? That's a big increase.
It's a big increase due to a tariff in place for all new cars imported into the United States under the current administration. This is an attempt to increase car manufacturing in the United States. General Sales Manager Andy Keys says the cars on the lot now are the same as usual. A statement on the dealership's website encourages anyone in the market to buy a new car to do it now before the new ones make it on the lot. Wendell Motors gets roughly 120 to 140 new ones each month. If a person waits for the new cars coming in later this month, a 25% tariff would create increases between $2,000 to $7,000 depending on each car. Keys says the information is something he felt had to be out in the open for Wendell's customers.
We just wanted to kind of try to cut through the clutter a little bit and let them know what's actually going on.
Wendell Motors has both a Ford and Nissan dealership. For Nissans, Keys says they get some from Japan, South Korea, and Canada. Roughly 78% of Fords on the lot are made in the U.S., the rest come in from Canada or Mexico. Despite the majority of American manufacturing, Keys warns the building blocks to make a functioning car still depends on foreign engineering that also could be subject to the growing 25% cost.
Some of the transmissions and engines in the American products that are built in the United States come from other countries, so there could be a tariff on those components going into those American cars.
It's a situation Keys says makes him feel uncertain about the future, but is determined to continue running the business the best he and his staff can.
Well, it's a little uneasy, but we're just going on like everything is normal.
We've seen a huge price increase over the last year.
Andrew Ty co-owns Brew Peddler off of 29th Street with his wife. It's a new space where he can work on what he loves.
Makes for a really nice cup of Colombia coffee.
Colombia is just one part of the world where he gets his beans from. Others include Guatemala and Brazil, all of which are impacting Ty's daily grind. He says prices are going up at a significantly higher rate as he places his coffee order each month.
About $1 an average per pound is kind of how we've been affected from the different countries we order from.
All coffee starts from green beans, which are nearly 100% imported from other countries. Brazil is the world's leading coffee producer. They're facing struggles from extreme flooding in 2024 to extreme heat in 2025. While most tariffs have been put on pause, President Donald Trump still has a baseline 10% tariff on all trading partners except for China. This includes products like coffee beans from countries Thai relies on.
I'm afraid for what could happen coming up here.
He says the uncertainty makes running his new business more complex than he'd like. He's hopeful he won't have to raise prices.
It could just be retail coffee that we increase our price on, or I'm hoping I don't have to increase our price on our menu in general, but we'll see.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
KREM 2 News is committed to bring you more to every story. Here now, a deeper look behind the headline.
Another down day for U.S. stocks in one of the most volatile days since President Trump's global tariffs took effect, and that's having an effect on the global economy.
There's uncertainty within kind of the financial construct right now, and a lot of that's coming from the tariffs that are coming out, and we really don't know how that's going to play out right now.
Ryan Farman with Quantum Financial Planning says it's important to not be reactive to the market downturn, but instead make financial choices with your goals in mind.
For people that are still working, they're still contributing to their 401ks, their investments, we see this as a good buying opportunity.
Stocks in major companies like Apple and Google are down around 25%, Farman says, making this a good time to add some of them to your portfolio at a discount.
So for people, let's say, that have over 10 years before retirement, knowing that you have a longer investment time horizon, we want to be more risky with our portfolios.
If you're a few years away from retirement, maybe diversify your investments and take less risks in the market. There is talk of possible recession, but Farman says we can't predict what will happen. Still, he says be prepared just in case.
Always making sure that you have that emergency fund. So having kind of 3 to 6 months of living expenses set away in savings or checking, and then really from there trying to make sure that you're not overspending.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, and we want to help catch you up on some stories you might have missed.
If you've taken notice of Spokane County's newest roadside attraction, it's already doing its job.
We're really hoping to see a drop in speeds in this area.
WashDOT's new roadside speed cameras are part of a $1 million pilot program created by state lawmakers. The Transportation Department partnered with State Patrol and the Traffic Safety Commission to roll out the program in only 2 spots across the state, in Skagit and Spokane counties. Kyle Miller with WashDOT says those locations were selected based on higher rates of crashes and speeding, among other factors.
Crash data was part of it. Geometrics of the roadway was part of it. The speed of the roadways.
The cameras work on the average speed method, meaning this camera at point A near Liberty Lake will capture your speed. And then 3 miles east, a second camera here at the state line will track your speed once again, then using time and distance, average out that speed. Now, if you were over the legal limit, expect a surprise in the mail, but it's not a ticket.
They will get a courtesy notice in their mailbox. Essentially, it's a safety message, right? It talks about how we're really trying to help increase safety, but also at the same time, talk about the potential fines that could be if a trooper or somebody else is to pull you over.
The cameras will capture speed data through June. That information will then go to the state legislature along with public feedback on the program.
We will be able to track how speeding went, really, some maybe before and afters, working with the Traffic Safety Commission on some of their analytics.
Miller says testing the equipment is one goal, but the main driver of this program, cut down on crashes.
We really want to drive home safety, slow traffic down to reduce injuries in our crashes, reduce the severity of the crashes.
Shannon Mowdy,
and really make sure that people come home safe.
KREM 2 News.
Something that is critical is maintaining that public trust.
Pullman's new police chief, Aaron Brashears, emphasizes his priorities in his leading role at the department. He started with Pullman PD as a patrol officer, all the way to operations commander, who oversees detectives and officers, and now chief.
This department is a good department, and we have a very strong foundation.
This change in leadership comes after public trust paused. Former Pullman Police Chief Jake Opgenorth went on administrative leave in December of 2024 relating to domestic violence allegations against him. Washington State Patrol led the investigation. The case was dismissed and Opgenorth later resigned. Brashears says how the situation with his predecessor was handled is what he wants to see going forward, emphasizing transparency.
To have an outside agency who can step in and verify and provide our community with a reassurance that this isn't a police department that's going to cover up and hide things. We will have someone come in and shine a light where there needs to be a light shown.
Brashears says his focus starting out will be reviewing how policies and procedures are handled and how to improve them. He says they have 33 positions and hopes down the line he can be chief to more.
I would love to hire more police officers. Those hiring more police officers requires more funding and budget considerations from the rest of the city.
But for now, Brashears is basking in the excitement of his new role. He hopes to show his love for the city he's serving.
I am humbled and honored to be given this responsibility by our elected officials, and we're going to get to work and continue to provide the services to the city of Pullman deserves.
Well, there have been bills proposed before to try to reform college sports, but this is a push to dissolve the NCAA altogether. Congressman Michael Baumgartner's background in Pullman and at Washington State motivated him to try to make a change. Baumgartner has been critical of name, image, and likeness deals for athletes and the highest bidder, pay-for-play nature of what those deals, combined with the transfer portal, have become.
It is really destroying something a lot of us love and something that's really important. In college sports is also it's a lot of taxpayer dollars at stake, so it's a highly subsidized public good. And when I look at the landscape, I just don't think the NCAA is capable of dealing with these issues.
His proposed bill, the Restore College Sports Act, would replace the NCAA with what he calls the American College Sports Association. The ACSA would have a commissioner appointed by the President of the United States and confirmed by Congress to serve a 4-year term, making it easier to regulate what Baumgartner calls the Wild West of college sports.
So we need to cap the arms race in college sports, create an equal playing field with fair revenue sharing, and that way we'll create more opportunities for people to compete at places like Eastern Washington University and Washington State University and Whitworth University and Gonzaga University.
The bill proposes equal sharing of broadcast and NIL revenue and mandates conferences by geographical location. Baumgartner shares the frustration with many area fans over what happened to the Pac-12.
I grew up in Pullman and going to Washington State University games is extremely important for our state and for our community. And, WSU is going to lose over $30 million a year now because the Pac-12 was allowed to dissolve.
While the bill doesn't prevent athletes from transferring freely, the other regulations prevent what Baumgartner calls the pay-for-play transfer system in college sports today. It's a system he thinks his late friend Mike Leach would approve of.
Well, Mike hated the direction college sports was going, with the pay for play, and I think about Mike frequently. I think Mike would be all for us and behind what we're trying to do and trying to bring some common sense back to something that's very special for a lot of people across America.
Baumgartner said some of his colleagues in Congress have voiced support for the bill, as well as a handful of athletic directors. We've reached out to local universities and the NCAA. They've either declined to comment or haven't gotten back to us. In the newsroom, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
Hello, I'm Cody Proctor. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News. You're watching the Week in Review, where we bring you some of the biggest news stories of the past week.
At Northwest Autism Center here in Spokane, their executive director advocates for Autism Appreciation Month, a blend of both awareness and acceptance as they support people with autism of all ages and abilities. When Dawn Seidel first started Northwest Autism Center in 2003, a lot of people she talked to had never heard of autism.
I can't even tell you how many times people ask me, You know, what is your son's skill? What's the thing, the amazing thing that he can do? Does he have an amazing memory? Does he do math? Does he, you know, and I struggle to answer that because I think that it is a reflection of a lack of understanding about that spectrum.
Seidel's son, who recently celebrated his 30th birthday, has what is now called Tier 3 autism spectrum disorder, meaning he requires 24/7 care. Seidel started her Spokane nonprofit, Northwest Autism Center, as a result of his diagnosis.
You can't change the world for your own child if you're not working to change the world for everybody. Improvements don't happen in a vacuum.
When Seidel's son was diagnosed, his pediatrician told them it was like getting struck by lightning. That's how rare the diagnosis was. Now, 1 in 36 children in the United States are diagnosed with autism. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is calling for more research about the cause of increased cases. However, he often points to things like vaccines as external causes and has claimed that older adults with autism spectrum disorder are incredibly rare. But not only has the diagnostic criteria expanded, so have resources for people with disabilities.
Those individuals were in institutions, kept at home. I think that there is some play about how we cared for individuals a couple of decades ago versus today.
Autism was classified as an independent diagnosis in 1980 and in 2013 was updated as autism spectrum disorder, which pulled separate neurodevelopmental diagnoses into the ASD umbrella.
I think continuing to be at the table, you know, I may hear things I don't agree with. I may hear opinions or perspectives that don't seem to be quite on the mark, but that's the whole reason we get together.
For Autism Acceptance Month, Northwest Autism Center will be hosting its 10th annual Steps for Autism 5K on Saturday, April 26th at Riverfront Park. In the newsroom, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It is free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Now here's one more story before we go.
Well, this hat that I'm wearing right now, it's a hat that I've seen all over the country, airports, restaurants. I stop and speak with all types of different guys who are wearing this hat. It's kind of a connecting, bonding moment when you see someone else with the hat. But I also found out that the person and the founders who created this hat and this global brand now are also some kooks. So when I found that out, I had to have a conversation with one of those founders.
We were just three dads in a text thread with kids all different ages, and we were saying dad gang all the time. Where after like sharing days with each other, you know, like, oh, today was hard, like the kids wouldn't sleep, I had stuff at work, exhausted, and it's just kind of like, you know, whatever, man, we got you, dad gang.
So you might be able to see two beautiful baby boys on your screen right now. I've got to thank God and my wife for those blessings. I'm so happy to be a father of two boys. And then also that conversation I had with Bart, an awesome guy. I appreciate him for taking time out of his day. Dad gang, I mean, that's my entire identity these days. And then of course, if you're interested in purchasing some of those hats as well, super easy to find online. A simple Google search will take you right to Dad Gang Co. Lots of cool apparel.
Thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Keep it here on KREM 2 for more news throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.